Meanwhile, Belek walked thoughtfully around the palace, immersed in his thoughts. He was surprised to hear the news that Louis Gazelle had fallen from his horse and was badly injured, so he would not appear in society yet. Feeling very anxious, he accidentally wandered into the garden, which surprised him even more. The guy could not understand the reason why his father decided to modify his mother's old rose garden in such a way. He continued to look thoughtfully ahead, not even realizing that soon he would have a difficult meeting with his sister. Belek immediately asked her about the reason for her appearance, after which she asked if she really needed a reason to chat with her brother. She rejected his suggestion that she had come to brag, given the recent success of her latest discovery. Deborah bluntly stated that she came to demand an apology for all his bullying and ridicule. He grinned, telling him to remember what she was like and how she behaved, leaving him no choice. Realizing that she would not achieve what she wanted at such a pace, the girl contemptuously threw an envelope at her brother. It contained all the unpleasant information about Louis, which indicated that he was very mistaken about it. In an attempt to justify himself, he casually mentioned that such classified information was not even in Rosard's files. He looked at his sister in surprise when she deduced that it was Rosard who had chosen Louis for her, and that Belek was only trying to appropriate the idea. Deborah finally realized that it was Rosard who planted information about Louis so that he insisted on her marriage, intending to get the silver. They hoped that she would become mad about the wedding and provoke the anger of her father, provoking a desire to get rid of her. Thus, Rosard was going to oust Belek, knowing that if Louis's secrets came out after the wedding, he would be the one to blame. Before he had time to recover from the first envelope, the girl immediately handed him the next one. Belek almost fell down in surprise when he finally got acquainted with the contents of the new envelope. Deborah looked at him triumphantly, inwardly glad that the master was looking for information not only about Louis. That day he called out to her, learning again that she really wanted to hit her brother. Smiling, the master handed her an envelope, calling it a gift from her partner, which she should use wisely. What he read dealt an undeniable blow to Belek, after which his hands shook violently. First of all, he was struck by the news that the mine in which he had invested was for sale. Deborah corrected him, saying that the problem was the depletion of the silver veins. She also continued to put psychological pressure on him, saying that her father would be interested in learning about his role in her marriage. Belek looked at his sister dumbfounded when she mentioned Rosard, who had increased his influence through victories in the East. When asked what exactly she wanted, the girl only smiled slyly, ordering him to apologize. Deborah saw his stupor and realized that he did not agree to such conditions, since this price was too expensive for him. He stopped her as she walked towards the palace, saying that she was just about to see her father. Gritting his teeth and feeling very embarrassed, Belek nevertheless said that he was very sorry. The girl sneered insidiously as he continued, saying that he had managed to do something wrong and harm her. She forced him to list all the things he had done to her, but was still surprised when he spoke up that he hadn't noticed her potential. In the end, Deborah decided to do him a favor if he was so convincing. No sooner had he happily asked if she forgave him than the contract that she demanded to be signed immediately appeared before his eyes. Belek was clearly unhappy that he would be obliged to create the necessary copies for her. Burning with embarrassment, he tried to silence her when she hinted that she knew about some of his secret inventions. She gently pointed to the signature space when he said that he had already realized the amazing ability of her to extract information. His hands trembled and his face was bright red as he again demanded a guarantee to be silenced in exchange for a signature. In the end, Deborah smiled victoriously as she realized that the best artifact master in the Empire was now serving her. The next day, the girl walked through the corridors of the academy as if nothing had happened, surprised that everyone was running away. She noticed with annoyance that after that incident with Louis, they began to avoid her even more. In view of the fact that all rumors spread very quickly among them, everyone already knew that she had sent him away. Thinking about how she would now be able to find a ball partner, the girl accidentally wandered into a deserted clearing. No sooner had she gone any further than she immediately noticed an unknown sound coming from behind. To her surprise, there was a fluffy, well-groomed cat, which instantly attracted Deborah. Admiring the animal, she thought that she did not even know about the presence of such cuties here. She also noticed Isidore kneeling down specifically to pet the cat. Deborah was truly impressed by such a sight, considering how much she likes cats and handsome men. The guy still found Deborah standing behind him and was surprised to see her in such a place. A casual conversation arose between them that he was very impressed by her success in business and science. The girl looked at the cat in surprise as it meowed long, clutching the dress with her claws. Deborah remembered that she had forgotten to put out a bag of catnip when Isidore noticed that she liked it. She looked at the guy in surprise when he casually asked if she had found a gentleman for the ball. Unexpectedly closing the distance, Isidore smiled and expressed the hope that this time he would have the honor of accompanying her. After hearing the answer that he shouldn't hope, he still used all his charm and asked if he had a chance. Feeling a sudden pleasant pressure, Deborah felt embarrassed, trying to push him away from her. Isidore was extremely surprised to see how suddenly she had urgent business. The thought suddenly dawned on him that the girl was going to her main informant. Deborah almost flew into the office, immediately addressing the master without any warning. Considering that only a couple of minutes ago he had been with her in the clearing in the guise of Isidore, he clearly had to work hard to come earlier. Not wanting to admit that he ran with all his might, he only justified his poor appearance by playing sports. His face stretched in surprise as she said that she had come to inquire about Isidore, as he had become even stranger. She argued this oddity by the fact that he unexpectedly decided to become her beau at the ball. The master darkened with surprise when he heard the true reason for the girl's visit related to such an ordinary situation. He was visibly tense when she stated that he was definitely up to something and intended to get something from her father. Wanting to dispel her negativity, he threw a pile of papers on the table, urging her to calm down and take a look at the materials. Deborah was shocked when she saw that the file contained multiple versions, including edits and different versions. At first, he didn't understand what she meant, noticing that he had made a lot of adjustments. It dawned on him that he had provided her with a rough draft that embarrassed him, and a new dossier appeared in front of her. He explained that it consists of 6 criteria, including appearance, ability, reputation, finances, influence, and character. From the very first page, a real analysis of all her abilities awaited her, as if on a dating site. Deborah was blown away as she expected to see everything but that. She decided to approach him gently, saying that such a characterization clearly raises doubts about his abilities. The master fell into a sentiment when, seeing all the abundance of positive qualities and aspects of Isidore's personality, she thought that he had bribed him. Trying to convince her that she was too biased, he only made the girl more alert to the girl who smelled the lie. Based on the information provided, she had the feeling that there was no one more perfect than him. The master was clearly dissatisfied while not even realizing that the girl already suspected that they were both dating. His hand crashed on the table as Deborah stated that she didn't believe it because she knew how selfish he was. Seeing his sad face, she nevertheless came to the conclusion that Isidore was influential, since even the master could not find anything. The girl realized that she would not get anything more from him and ended the dialogue, throwing the bag of money on the table. No sooner had she reached the door than she was stopped when she heard a new question from the mage. Remaining calm, he asked directly about who she was going to the spring ball with. Deborah decided to try her luck out of curiosity and asked him if he would like to go with her for a generous payment. With a confident glare, she calmed the shocked mage by saying that she was only joking. The master was so taken aback that at first he didn't even know what to say to her, until he finally called her sense of humor terrible. Given his answer, the girl's thoughts still revolved around the fact that she would have to go to the festival with Isidore. Seeing that Deborah had finally left the office, the master could relax a little, being forced to calm his embarrassment. After some time, the cherished holiday still came, overflowing the academy with new colors. The elegantly dressed ladies were shocked when they noticed a new reason for future gossip in the distance. All eyes were riveted on the couple of Philip and Mia, who suddenly appeared in society. They were all trying to guess who this lady was, accompanied by Montes, that even helped her out of the carriage. After carefully examining the silhouette of the girl, they still came to the conclusion that this is the famous Mia Binocha. The ladies continued to discuss that although she was from a simple family, she possessed great divine power. The star couple quickly disappeared behind the massive doors, where they were already met by a servant. Sometime after he took Mia to the fitting room, she appeared in front of Philip, illuminating everyone with beauty. The man proudly presented Montes with her outfit, which met his requirements to be cute and luxurious. Mia Binoche burned with surprise and delight, being delighted with all the work done. The girl modestly thanked Philip, who complimented her on how much this dress suits her. The man only looked around at his chosen one, expressing his conviction that she would make an excellent goddess. Philip brought her strand in his mouth and bluntly stated that none of the girls present at the festival would look better than her. He thought with a smirk that people like Deborah would be left out, given how provocative clothes she liked. Looking at Mia, he still tried to calm the last thoughts about why Deborah had stopped texting him. After some time, they still found themselves in the middle of the banquet hall, surrounded by dancing couples. They immediately joined their acquaintances, holding hands. Philip proudly looked at his companion, listening to the flattering words of those around him about how perfect her image looked. A victorious grin lit up his face as if the girl was his trophy, which he boasted to others. Before he could finish his thought that the best flower would be Mia, his attention was immediately riveted on another girl. All the thoughts of those around them were mixed up when they saw the gorgeous Deborah accompanied by Isidore. The confident girl grinned victoriously, looking around at everyone present in the hall. Their mouths opened in surprise when they saw the sparkling pink diamond around the girl's neck. Everyone was delighted with the incredible beauty of this unsurpassed stone. Deborah looked so gorgeous at this moment that it seemed that even her beau openly admired her. Seeing how close the two were, the other ladies were stunned by how gorgeous they looked together. The girl felt all the eyes riveted on them and was clearly pleased with all this attention. At that moment, she was again convinced that she had done the right thing by choosing pink as the main color. Deborah lingered on her chosen one, agreeing that he looked just perfect in pink. The man watched Deborah with a smile as she wondered in her mind that he had listened to her after all. Shortly before the festival, she sent him a letter indicating that she would agree to his proposal if he dressed as she told. She was only once again convinced that the matching outfits of the partners make a special impression. Finally, Deborah broke the silence by warning Isidore that she was walking fast enough. Meanwhile, everyone happily greeted the appearance of the crown prince, looking at everyone from above. He smiled benevolently at the crowd, flashing his bright yellow eyes before greeting everyone. As soon as the music broke, the crown prince was already dancing with the lady. Deborah shrewdly watched the guy, after which she came to the conclusion that his appearance was greatly overrated. In the Empire, blue was believed to be the color of the sea and sky, as well as majesty, giving rise to the concept of blue blood. The girl knew that if everything went well, then this prince would become emperor. It was the best option, since the second prince was too weak, and the third was born from a woman from another country and could not ascend the throne due to prejudice. Deborah glanced at Isidore's outstretched hand, knowing that everyone was against his coronation, even though his mother was the emperor's favorite. The man invited her to dance together, illuminating her with his radiant smile. The girl was forced to interrupt her thoughts, feeling how much her cheeks were covered with blush from such a proposal. As if hypnotized, she agreed to Isidore's proposal until she suddenly realized that she was weak in dancing. Deliberately approaching the stunned girl, Isidore asked with a smirk if she was worried. In an attempt to maintain the remnants of her composure, she only cautiously stated that she always danced like this. Isidore tried to relax his partner and remind her that she was not on parade, but all her thoughts were occupied with his pleasant smell. Suddenly spinning the girl in the dance, he confidently ordered her to listen to the melody. To his surprise, Deborah was extremely bad at dancing and was one step away from crushing his leg. Feeling that she was about to lose her balance, the man again confidently grabbed her by the waist, pressing her to him. Being someone who had never felt such emotions before, the girl was shocked by such an overabundance of feelings and sensations. Isidore was visibly pleased with the range of sensations she felt from just dancing with him. Deborah's mind was filled with how well he was doing in a leading role, even though her movements were bad. In the end, she still stepped on his foot, causing an unpleasant sensation. Deliberately holding Deborah by the waist, Isidore asked if she had stepped on him on purpose. She tried to convince him that this was not the case at all, but was distracted by one insignificant detail. The girl was surprised to see how angrily Philip was looking at them, burning with anger. She could not understand the reason for such a piercing gaze directed directly at her and Isidore. Noticing the girl's interest, her companion immediately decided to return her attention to him, covering his back from the annoying guy. Before Deborah had time to enjoy the moment that arose between them, she immediately heard the news of the end of the dance. The girl turned away from her beau and looked at the audience, admiring them in embarrassment. Isidore was looking thoughtfully ahead when Deborah complimented him, saying that he was the most eligible gentleman today. Meanwhile, Philip continued to burn them with his eyes, feeling that the cherished minute of his couple's fame had come to an end. Both of them were clearly tired of the hatred with which an angry Philip was staring at them. The girl thought that he could be so angry about the diamond, but was distracted when she heard someone else's voice. It turned out to be Isidore's friend, who happily shared with them the assumption that they would be chosen as the best couple. She hadn't even expected that his appearance would cause him such discomfort and annoyance. Deborah decided to find out who it was, after which Isidore named this guy Terry Orgo. He also mentioned the fifth princess, with whom he appeared at the festival. Upon seeing her, Deborah's mind immediately reminded of the 2-week-old hearing. On that day, the girl greatly surprised all the students at the academy, including the admiration of the princess. A bored Terry noticed the girl's open interest in how she solved the equation so quickly. She was palpably shocked that she managed to do what only geniuses could do. Picking up her surprised mood, Isidore reminded them that he had told them how amusing she was. The princess was so delighted with her person that she ordered him to bring her to their club. Finally, the day came when she met the very girl who amazed everyone with her genius. Deborah felt a little nervous trying to understand the reason why this girl looked at her like that. Meanwhile, Terry continued to taunt his friend in a kind way, pointing out how dazzling he looked today. His importunity caused a mixture of indignation and surprise in Deborah, who was quietly watching all this. Realizing that their conversation was gradually moving away from the original plan, the princess gently drew attention to herself. Realizing what she was getting at, Isidore promptly introduced them to Miss Deborah Seymour. Although the girl saw her in person for the first time, she still found her a pleasant person and called meeting her an honor for herself. To some extent, she served as a source of clients for Deborah as she made her case public, making the formula famous. The princess immediately admitted that she had wanted to talk to her for a long time, and also complimented her outfit. The coming stream of admiring compliments and a desire to get to know her better struck Deborah on the spot. After beating around the bush for a short time, the princess announced that she was inviting her to their club. Isidore tried to stop her, saying that he had not yet had time to discuss the matter with Deborah. She only shut him up, saying that this was not up for discussion, and then proceeded to list the advantages of the club, mentioning the beauty of the head of the club. Such an advertisement only made Deborah apprehensive about how desperate his situation looked. After analyzing the environment, the girl concluded that their calculation was that she would not be able to refuse in public. In the end, she came to the conclusion that it was even better for her, and thanked her for the invitation with a radiant smile. Not wanting to hesitate, the princess said impatiently that she had better join them at once rather than thank them for anything. Isidore was stunned to hear her agree to join their club. As if he did not believe in what was said, he once again asked if she really decided so. Likewise, not believing how quickly she agreed, the princess declared that she would bitterly regret if she reneged on her words. Deborah liked the princess's straightforwardness, so she immediately replied that she would not dare to deceive her. Worried that she would change her mind, the princess immediately ordered Terry to bring the documents. The girl beamed with joy when the princess mentioned that she was participating in a magical conference and would like to ask something. Meanwhile, the management of the Aerocron Club was similarly concerned that Deborah was dragged into the club by competitors. They understood that everything had already been decided, because even despite the girl's willfulness, she still could not refuse the princess. The guys turned inquiringly to Philip, who had previously convinced them that she would definitely join their club. He asked why they had changed their minds, since they had previously been against it. They only said that a lot had changed, which was confirmed by the ball, where she amazed everyone with her wonderful dance. Philip analyzed with annoyance how quickly she changed the opinion of others about her, thinking through all the details perfectly. Hearing the mention of Isidore, he only contemptuously called him henpecked, who was a disgrace to society. Thoughtfully examining the glass in his hand, he heard an offer to win her over to his side before she signed the contract. Not wanting to listen to them any longer, he furiously ordered them to be silent, as he clearly did not intend to humiliate himself in front of her. At the same time, Deborah and Isidore continued to be in the crosshairs of many female glances devouring the guy. The girl was mentally amazed at his composure, considering that all those girls were asking to dance with him, and he didn't care. She still couldn't understand why he was so friendly to her. Feeling the girl's gaze on him, he turned around, awkwardly meeting her eyes. When he asked if she was turning away because of his dazzlingness, Deborah only grumbled in displeasure. Knowing that she openly admired him, Isidore nevertheless approached her, again enchanting her. Smiling caustinely, the man caught her in unprecedented strictness, with which she keeps trying to push him away. Deborah couldn't hide her embarrassment when he said that this was why he wanted to be naughty so much. Like a devil, Isidore shrewdly looked her straight in the eyes, without breaking the seductive eye contact. The girl was burning with embarrassment, unable to tear herself away from this handsome man. She still gathered all her will into a fist, realizing that at this rate she would fall for his masculine charms. Deborah still had to tear herself away from her interlocutor, seeing something interesting ahead. She was trying to figure out who Mia was dancing with and how Philip had allowed her to dance with someone else in the first place. The girl's new partner turned out to be the notorious Dira Orgo, who was constantly looking at Mia. Deborah knew that he was distinguished by his disgust and sense of justice, for which he was nicknamed the Judge. Thus it finally dawned on her that all of Mia's suitors had gathered in this place, among whom only Rosard was missing. To her surprise, Belek suddenly appeared in front of her, who immediately turned to Isidore. They both looked at the guy in surprise, trying to understand the reason for his visit. He only quickly walked around the man, finally whispering that if she was holding him hostage, he should give him a sign. Before they had time to recover from such advice, Belek immediately disappeared into space, running away to Deborah's anger. The girl was beside herself when she realized how impudent her brother had allowed himself. Isidore noticed with a smile that they got along well, as if ignoring the girl's mood. Hearing him say that he was a little jealous of her, she chuckled, saying that it was his luck that way he would have fewer enemies. The girl's frankness made him smile, which is why he again kindly called her funny. Deborah paid attention to the time, knowing that a masquerade ball would soon come in the main square of the castle. She would have gladly attended this event but was forced to go away on her own business. As soon as she left, her companion immediately followed her, as if he did not want to let go. Without any hesitation, the man squeezed her palm and asked her to give him one last dance together. Deborah was confused, since she did not really want to refuse the gentleman and to stay late at the event either. To their surprise, Philip suddenly jumped between them, calling out to Deborah in order to invite her to dance as well. The girl felt an obvious stupor, not understanding why he suddenly proposed it so sharply. Throwing his opponent's hand away from the girl, Isidore said that he did not intend to give in to him. Clearly not wanting to give in, Philip reminded him that a girl at a ball could not dance with only one gentleman. At this moment, Deborah felt nothing but irritation and a desire to get away from them as quickly as possible. Isidore's face took on an even more negative look, after which he said that Philip's insistence seemed even more inappropriate. Grinning impudently, he replied that, unlike him, he had not guarded his lady all evening. Looking around, Deborah realized that their conflict was gaining such momentum again that those around her were already starting to gossip. Not understanding what was happening here at all, she experienced great discomfort. Deciding to take matters into her own hands, she asked Philip how much longer he had cared about her reputation. She recalled that all this time he only hurt her, so now his behavior seems unrealistic. Folding his arms over his chest, he asked her bluntly if she didn't want to dance with him. Not wanting to endure it any longer, she compared it to rotten and forgotten food on her table, which was no longer interesting to her. His face twisted in surprise as she immediately asked him if he knew the feeling of being served such food. Without hesitation, she answered her own question, saying that this feeling is comparable to when you are poured with mud. Calling him rotten food, she took Isidore by the hand and walked forward, ordering Philip to go to his partner. Smiling insidiously, she finally said that she wanted to end the evening well in the company of the best flower of the year. Finally, after long minutes of dancing, Deborah was forced to run through the streets, surprising her assistant. Not wanting to answer his questions, she only ordered him to follow her quietly, knowing that she was already very late. While at the night market, she was looking for the basement of the house behind a shop with ceramic pots, where a secret auction was held. She remembered that, according to the plot in the book, one of the lots of this auction fell into Deborah's hands. It was an ancient artifact capable of warming a sacred egg. Deborah knew that she needed it very much, so she only readily pulled up her hood, wanting to get it at any cost. In ancient times, there were hagiasms in their world, born from the connection between the spirit and the animal. Despite their immortality, they covered their tracks to escape the darkness that reigned in their world. With the help of a special artifact, you can awaken an egg, like Dara Orgo, who gave Mia a white turtle, which he personally woke up. The girl understood that as a villain, she would be especially useful, since she could be used in special situations. Unfortunately, she is not Mia, for whom everyone would be ready to stand up. After a long couple of minutes, she finally noticed the cherished pots, indicating the approach of the auction. Her assistant was extremely surprised when she ordered him to stay here, as she had some business to do. The girl was clearly against his presence at this event and tried to convince him that she would not do anything illegal. Putting on a black mask, she went downstairs, telling him to stand there until midnight until she returned. The event was in full swing, so all the participants were already announcing their bets. The host enthusiastically urged everyone to bet even more, forcing them to join this process more. Deborah watched the scene with an impenetrable face, waiting for her cherished lot, for which she had come here. Announcing the new object, the host called for a look at its pure radiance, insisting that it was the feather of an ancient bird. The girl watching this only sighed tiredly, realizing that the phoenix feather had only a name and a spell. Looking at the rest of the lots with thought, she was still not sure if she would be lucky today. She remembered that the novel had said that the object she wanted was very rare, but at the moment they all seemed so to her. All the items left on the table met this criterion in one way or another, which confused Deborah even more. By this time, prices had become simply cosmic, and Deborah understood that she did not have the opportunity and right to buy everything. Deciding to think about what Dira Orgo would want to buy in this situation, she immediately glanced at the modestly lying sword. Fortunately for her, the host immediately announced this lot in the form of a bastard sword exterminating demons. Before he had time to name the initial cost, another participant immediately responded, raising the rate. The girl looked at her opponent with interest, analyzing the details of his behavior and appearance. Her gaze instantly caught on the emblem of the dark horse, which is the symbol of the knightly band in which Dira was. She clearly had no intention of giving the right sword to Dira's henchman, and raised her hand, raising the stake from 50 to 100 gold. Looking at his competitor with obvious dissatisfaction, the man cautiously named the amount of 110 gold coins. Everyone else froze in surprise as she struck back, raising the price to 220 gold. Hearing the shocked speeches that this was the highest bid of the day, Deborah only smiled slyly. After a while, she looked at the sword thoughtfully, trying to understand how it was used for her purpose. Meanwhile, a new lot was again announced in the hall in the form of a valuable book of morality containing life wisdom. Deborah mentally waved it off, assuming that such a book would hardly be of interest to anyone. To her surprise, a man in a white robe nevertheless raised his hand, expressing a desire to purchase the book. Even though his face was covered, he still stood out from the crowd with his unusual appearance and broad shoulders. Seeing this guy, Deborah herself was surprised for a minute, appreciating his beauty and charisma. Before she knew it, he came up to her with a book in his hands and bent down, peering into her face. Noticing her stupor, he took off his mask with a smile, demonstrating that he was the one she had been with at the ball just recently. The girl stared at his face in shock, not believing that it was the same Isidore Visconti. The man continued to look at the girl with a smile, allowing her to get used to this thought. Deborah asked him how he recognized her, and then she was told that both her gait and her figure indicated this to him. As if scalded, Deborah began to hide her hair when he pointed out that it was visibly sticking out of the hood. He looked at the subject in surprise when he heard her counter-question about why he needed this book containing the advice of an old moralist. In response, he only offered her to take this book, but the girl waved it off, saying that she did not really need it. Deborah could not believe her ears when he said that it did not contain sermons, but ways to make money. Isidore slyly flashed his eyes, suggesting that she might well be useful to her in the future. In the end, she agreed to his offer and took this seemingly predictable book. Having resolved this issue, Isidore turned to her with a proposal to go outside and admire the fireworks, which would soon begin. Deborah had long dreamed of seeing him with her own eyes, so his offer made her noticeably happy. Isidore stared at the girl in surprise, clearly not expecting that she would agree to his proposal so quickly. After leaving the main hall, the man showed her the fast travel seal, adding that they would be in a special place. He put his arm around Deborah's waist securely, arguing that there were two of them, so they had better stay close so that everything went well. The girl looked at the shimmering particles around her in surprise, feeling how they were smoothly transferred to another place. In the end, she was clearly surprised by the chosen location, being on the top floor of a tall tower. Isidore walked slowly to the balcony, adding that they had the best view here. Seeing that the girl stood next to her and leaned against the railing, he followed her example and provoked an unsafe creak. Deborah looked at Isidore in shock, feeling as if she was about to fall down. The man was clearly pleased with the girl's reaction, for the sake of which he pretty much made her nervous. From such a sudden attack of excitement, she was forced to grasp the hand of her companion, looking him straight in the eyes. Realizing that all of this had been done on purpose, Deborah gave Isidore a malicious look when he said that she was very active today. She did not have time to scold the guy well, as she was immediately distracted by the news of the beginning of the main celebration. Turning her head to the side, Deborah was shocked to see the myriad bright flashes that filled the entire sky. Both of them were fascinated by the violet magic that unfolded in the evening sky. The girl could not describe in words all the delight experienced by such a landscape, which delighted her to the depths of her soul. As if spellbound, she tried to catch the fireworks with her fingertips, smiling radiantly with happiness. Even though Isidore agreed with her, his gaze was still fixed on her, not on the bright sky. After the holiday was over, as she walked home, Deborah still couldn't believe what had happened, as if she were in a dream. She continued to replay the events of the evening in her head, focusing on Isidore's cherished phrase. Realizing how ambiguous her words sounded, she tried to recover from the delusion caused by his gaze. No sooner had she entered the palace than she was immediately greeted by the sad butler. Bowing, he hinted that a worried duke was waiting for her, given how long she had been delayed. Deborah realized that she had left the guard at the door and went about her business without warning, which only frightened everyone else more. Modestly announcing her return, She immediately met her father standing thoughtfully at the window. Upon learning of her presence, the Duke did not even turn around, which only confirmed how angry he was. Ignoring the fact that he was really worried, George coldly stated that he had only asked when she would come. She looked at the Duke uncomprehendingly as he added that she seemed to have had a good time. Still feeling a little dizzy after all the adventures, she still made him wonder why she looked so crumpled. Before she could say that she was at the night market, she was immediately deafened by the anxious cry of a man. Immediately assuming the worst-case scenario, he accused Visconti of taking her to such a place on purpose. The girl rolled her eyes tiredly, knowing that it was her initiative to visit this place and not the hated Isidore. She knew that this morning the man had personally come to their estate to take her to the palace for the ball. Taking into account her demand, Isidore came to her directly with flowers, full of his pink fashionable suit. Deborah's conservative father was in real shock, not realizing that he had forgotten this puffed-up turkey here. Not knowing the true state of affairs, the Duke continued to grumble, thinking that this guy had left his daughter alone with all sorts of rabble. Deborah explained that it was her decision to attend the auction, as she found out about the rare item on display. Not understanding what kind of book she had handed him, George flipped through a few pages with prejudice. Less than half a minute later, he was immediately surprised to learn that this book was written by the head of the Seymour family in the 6th generation. He also pointed out that he was left-handed, which is why his handwriting looks like a cipher, so the text can be read by reflecting it in the mirror. Deborah's father's hands trembled when he realized that this was how Belmont Seymour left his memoirs. The girl only wearily watched her father's delight, indicating that he had a new hyperfixation. She immediately remembered the episode with Isidore, when he said that this book could be useful to her. Mentally thanking her companion for such a gift, she said with a smile that it was her gift to her father. George's father's heart fluttered when he noticed that she had left the ball for such a dangerous place on purpose to buy him a gift. Wishing her to rest as well as possible, he buried his face in the book, giving her the opportunity to leave the office. Before he had time to relax, he was immediately surprised to hear Deborah's piercing scream. The girl suddenly fell to the floor, frightenedly examining the floor floating in her eyes. George rushed to her aid, trying to find out what had happened to her. The shocked girl said that she could not find her pink diamond, which she accurately put in her inner pocket. In the days that followed, Ipschen had its own atmosphere, filled with anxiety about the latest news. The princess asked him again if Deborah had signed the documents to join their society. The guy gave a negative answer, notifying her that he could not cross paths with her, since she has not left the house lately. The princess looked at him dumbfounded when he told him rumors about her illness. Rejecting her offer to visit the girl, he suggested that she might just be very angry. The guy learned information from the servants that she lost her pink diamond when she found herself in the night market. Repeating the phrase that she had been robbed, she confidently stated that this stone may already be on the black market. He also heard that Philip Montes is already trying to find a diamond, which doesn't seem like a good idea. Both Terry and Vanessa came to the conclusion that Deborah would definitely not tolerate it if he found this diamond and gave it to Mia. The girl remained silent when he expressed confidence that in this case, someone's blood would definitely be spilled. Meanwhile, Deborah was already in the process of selling this pink diamond for which she played all this drama. Hearing her question about the current value of the jewel, the master remained silent, holding a pause thoughtfully. The girl was over the moon when he announced that she was now worth 2.5 times the original price. He argued this cost by the fact that it greatly fueled the interest of the public by appearing at the ball with a diamond. Deborah proudly mentioned that she herself was upset, trying to get used to the role of a sad girl after losing a stone. Hearing her question about who became the buyer, the master replied that it was a collector from another country. This detail made her feel even calmer, since the farther the stone went, the better for her.